When I first bought the property out by the lake, I knew it was a bit of a fixer-upper, but I fell in love with the isolation and peace. The centerpiece of it all was this beautiful little wooden bridge that arched over a narrow creek, the only vehicle access point to my land. It wasn't much to look at from afar, just weathered planks and old rails. But I'd spent months reinforcing it by hand, researching the right materials, adding steel supports, and consulting with an engineer friend who helped me confirm it could handle light personal vehicles. I posted clear signs on both ends. PIV BRIGE2, Tommy IGHT Lime IT, no HEAVVIS, not just a recommendation, an actual legal warning. And for a while, life was good. The birds returned. I finally started my small garden, and the evenings were filled with crickets and calm. That was before the HOA stepped in. Or, more accurately, before Karen, the HOA president, made herself known. Now, my property technically sits just outside the boundaries of the Homeowners Association, but that never stopped Karen from treating the whole neighborhood like her personal empire. She ran the HOA like a dictator dressed in yoga pants, issuing fines for untrimmed hedges, threatening lawsuits over mailbox colors, and micromanaging everything from lawn gnomes to trash bins. Most people just ignored her, but she had a way of pushing until you either gave in or snapped. And Karen hated being told no. It started one morning with a loud rumble that shook the windows. I rushed outside and was stunned to see a full-sized cement truck trundling across my bridge. The wood creaked under the weight, groaning in protest as the truck lumbered over, leaving deep imprints in the dirt as it passed. I stood there, mouth open, heart racing. It didn't collapse, but it was never supposed to carry that kind of weight. The margin for disaster was razor thin. I waved the driver down, furious and confused, but he just pointed back up the road. "Talk to the lady in charge," he said before rolling away in a cloud of dust. I marched up to the cul-de-sac the truck had come from, and sure enough, Karen was standing with a clipboard, directing workers like she was filming an HGTV episode. I confronted her, calmly at first, and told her the bridge wasn't public access, wasn't rated for heavy trucks, and absolutely couldn't handle cement mixers. She waved me off with a fake smile and that patronizing tone she used when she thought she was smarter than everyone else. "Oh, please, it's just a little shortcut," she said. "We're redoing the foundation on our new community clubhouse, and this saves the trucks almost 15 minutes. You should be thankful we're improving the area." Thankful. For illegal use of my property. For endangering a structure I poured months of time and money into. I told her flat out no more trucks. Period. Next time I'd involve the police. She didn't even flinch. "Sweetie," she said, "if you call the cops over a bridge, they'll laugh you off the line. Maybe if you had joined the HOA like you were supposed to, you'd have a say." And with that, she turned away and started barking orders again. The next day, it happened again. another cement truck, then another. Sometimes 2 or 3 a day, back and forth, hauling tons of concrete across my fragile bridge like it was a freeway ramp. Each time, I tried to block them, warn the drivers, even posted more signs, bigger ones, brighter ones, with warnings in red and reflective tape. But they kept coming. And Karen, she was always just out of reach, blaming the contractors, acting like it was all one big misunderstanding. I considered calling the police, but technically, the bridge was accessible by the public road. The boundary line was murky, and I knew Karen would argue I had failed to secure it properly. I contacted the city, but red tape and slow bureaucracy meant weeks before any kind of legal response could happen, if at all. Meanwhile, my bridge was suffering. Planks were starting to crack. The railings bowed slightly in the middle. My stomach twisted every time I heard that low rumble in the distance. I knew what Karen was doing. This wasn't just about a shortcut. It was about power. She hated that I lived just outside her jurisdiction. Untouchable. This was her way of reminding me she still had influence, that she could do what she wanted, where she wanted, and no one could stop her. And the worst part, she was almost right. Almost. That night, I sat on the edge of the bridge, watching the moonlight shimmer off the water below. I thought about how many weekends I'd spent rebuilding it, the pride I felt every time I crossed over in my truck, the peace I'd finally found in this place. And now it was being ruined, not by nature or accident, but by some petty tyrant with a clipboard. I took a long breath and made up my mind. Karen thought this bridge was just wood and nails. She had no idea what I'd built. She had no idea who she was dealing with. The day after I decided to fight back, I began planning, not out of anger, but with quiet, focused resolve. Karen thought she was clever, using my bridge as a private highway for her construction vehicles. What she didn't know was that I had more than just tools and timber on my side. Years ago, before I moved out here, I worked in systems engineering. Security systems, to be exact. Not just the kind you buy from a hardware store, either. I knew how to build things that watched, listened, triggered, and recorded. Quietly and invisibly. If I couldn't stop the trucks with rules and signs, I'd stop them with consequences. First, I reinforced the underside of the bridge, not to make it stronger, but to make it more controlled. I bolted 2 steel beams along the support ribs where they wouldn't be noticed unless someone crawled under. Attached to those, I mounted a custom-built pressure plate made from load sensors I salvaged from an old scale system I had stored in my shed. I calibrated them carefully, setting the weight limit just above 2 tons. My truck could pass. Most cars would be fine, but anything heavier, like a cement truck, would trigger the system. I ran a low voltage wire to a weatherproof box I buried nearby under the brush. Where the rest of my components sat a battery pack, a wireless transmitter, and a motion-activated trail cam mounted in a nearby tree. Next, I rigged a non-destructive deterrent, something visual that couldn't be ignored. I rigged a small canister of fluorescent orange dye, non-toxic, used for marking forestry lines, and attached it to a triggered sprayer built into the side railing. It wasn't dangerous, but it would coat the tires and undercarriage of anything too heavy with bright neon paint, nearly impossible to clean off quickly. I figured that might not seem like much, but wait until you're driving around town with fluorescent tires. Then people start asking questions. Contractors get nervous. Karen's project would get very uncomfortable very fast. The last touch was the camera. Trail cams are beautiful things. Silent, night, vision capable, time stamped. I had it aimed at the entrance of the bridge, zoomed in just enough to catch license plates and faces. Every vehicle that crossed would be documented, along with its weight reading and the time of crossing. It was simple, effective, and completely invisible. If Karen wanted to keep playing her game, I'd be ready. 2 mornings later, just after sunrise, I heard the now familiar growl of diesel as another cement truck came around the bend. I sat inside, sipping coffee, heart pounding, watching through the window as the truck approached the bridge. I knew this one was coming from Karen's site because it bore the same logo as the others, Castlerock Construction. The same guys she kept hiring despite my warnings. The driver didn't even hesitate. He rolled right over the warning sign and onto the bridge like it was his personal driveway. From where I sat, I couldn't see it all happen, but I knew exactly what was going on. The weight sensors activated the sprayer, blasting the undercarriage and wheels with orange dye. Simultaneously, the camera clicked silently from the tree. 3 photos in perfect sequence. The driver had no idea. He continued across, completely oblivious to the bright paint streaking his tires. But I knew what was coming. I gave it about 15 minutes, then grabbed my phone and headed down to the road. The paint trail was glorious, neon orange marks along the gravel where the truck had parked briefly, still dripping before moving on. It was subtle, but undeniable. I followed the trail up the hill and, as expected, it led straight to the construction site on the other side of the creek. Karen was there, of course, yelling at someone about granite countertops. I walked up calmly, phone in hand, and said, "You should probably tell your driver to wash his truck. Looks like he picked up something on the bridge." She glanced at me, irritated, then looked down at the orange streaks. Her eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" she hissed, voice sharp like a knife under velvet. "Nothing illegal," I replied smoothly, "but you might want to let your contractor know his trucks are being recorded. Oh, and just FYI, trail cams are legal on private property, especially when protecting it from trespassers." She tried to recover, brushing it off like I was bluffing, but I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes. And I wasn't bluffing. I uploaded the images and the sensor data to a shared cloud folder, time-stamped and organized. I sent it to the HOA board, the city permitting office, and even the local Department of Transportation. The bridge might be mine, but the trucks, they were violating multiple codes, weight limits, unauthorized access, and potential damage to public adjacent infrastructure. By the next day, I got a call from someone at Castle Rock Construction. They wanted to clarify who had given them permission to use the bridge. I told them I had never authorized their access and that their trucks were damaging a structure that could fail at any time. I didn't threaten them. I didn't have to. I just calmly let them know they were being recorded, and that if they continued, I'd pursue damages in small claims court. The line went quiet for a second. Then the guy said, "Understood." The next day, no trucks came. She showed up at my property line that weekend, arms crossed, flanked by 2 other HOA board members, clearly expecting a confrontation. I didn't give her one. I simply stood behind my gate, held up my phone, and said, "Everything's being recorded, including this conversation. If you're here to discuss bridge access, I suggest you talk to your lawyer first." One of the board members looked uncomfortable. The other outright asked, "Karen, did you actually get written permission for the trucks to use this route?" She hesitated just a little too long. That was all I needed. I didn't care about making a scene. I cared about making it stop. And thanks to a bit of clever engineering, some harmless dye, and a camera in the trees, I'd taken control of the situation. Karen wanted to play games. I built the board, made the rules, and now she was just a piece getting knocked off. The fallout didn't hit all at once. It crept in like a slow, moving storm, silent at first, then deafening. A few days after the last cement truck crossed my bridge and triggered the dye trap, things began unraveling for Karen in the most satisfying way imaginable. It started with whispers among the HOA board, small questions behind closed doors about permits, liability, and the integrity of what she had authorized. My footage had been shared with the right people, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. I needed to protect my property, and now the problem had grown beyond just a neighborly dispute. It had become a legal and financial mess that couldn't be ignored. Castle Rock Construction, the company Karen had hired, immediately pulled out of the clubhouse renovation project. The second their trucks got tagged with paint and caught on camera, they realized they were operating in violation of local access laws and using a route they never had legal permission to use. I later heard from a friend on the board that Karen had signed off on their access herself, without running it through the city, the HOA board, or any formal easement agreements. No paperwork, just Karen being Karen, assuming her title gave her the power to rewrite rules as she pleased. Then came the visit from the city inspector. I wasn't there when he showed up, but I can imagine the look on Karen's face when she realized her shortcut had triggered not just homeowner anger, but an official inquiry. The inspector followed the dye trail just like I had, documenting tire marks, checking for bridge damage, and reviewing the photos I'd submitted. The bridge, while still intact, had suffered minor structural strain that now required an inspection and formal evaluation. I was asked to submit a repair estimate, which I gladly did, along with a copy of the bill for materials and time I'd spent reinforcing and monitoring the bridge. The estimate was significant, and because Karen had allowed commercial traffic to use a private structure not built for that purpose, the city determined the HOA could be held partially liable for any repairs not covered by the construction company. Karen had ruled the HOA like a queen for years. People were afraid of her threats, her passive, aggressive emails, her subtle social punishments. But now, for the first time, she wasn't just annoying, she was dangerous. She had cost them money, exposed the HOA to legal liability, and nearly collapsed a piece of infrastructure that didn't belong to them. Her arrogance had backfired in full force. One by one, board members started distancing themselves. I heard through neighbors that several emergency meetings had been held. Meetings Karen didn't even attend because she wasn't feeling well. Probably too busy crafting another half-hearted apology or trying to rewrite the story to make herself the victim. She made one last attempt to spin it in her favor, sending out a newsletter to the entire neighborhood claiming the bridge incident had been an unfortunate misunderstanding caused by lack of communication from adjacent property owners. That was me. Apparently, I nearly laughed when I read it. She actually blamed me for not giving clearer warnings, for not putting up stronger barriers, for not collaborating with her infrastructure project. She even hinted that I had sabotaged the trucks to stir up drama. Unfortunately for her, the truth didn't need spin. It had timestamps, video footage, and a whole lot of bright orange tire tracks to back it up. The next HOA meeting was open to the public, and despite not being a member of the association, I had every legal right to attend and speak, especially since my property and private bridge had been at the center of the issue. I showed up early, handed out cupcakes to board members and attendees alike, smiled politely, and waited. Karen walked in late, noticeably tense, and for once, didn't dominate the room with her usual false charm. When the meeting opened to public comment, I stood, pulled out a flash drive, and said, "I have something I think the board and the neighbors deserve to see." I plugged the drive into the projector, and up came the footage. One by one, I played the clips. Trucks rolling across the bridge, the weight sensors activating, the dye spray triggering in real time, close-up images of the paint, streaked tires and license plates. Karen didn't say a word. She just stared straight ahead, face blank, jaw tight. When I finished, I thanked the board for their time and suggested that if they ever needed help building better neighborhood infrastructure, they were welcome to consult someone who understood what load capacity actually meant. They voted to remove her from her position that night, not just from the presidency, completely off the board. No debate. No second chances. Just a unanimous vote, followed by a slow clap that started in the back of the room and rippled forward. I didn't join in. I didn't need to. Justice didn't always come with handcuffs or courtroom drama. Sometimes it came with cupcakes and undeniable evidence. In the days that followed, I finally got the peace I had been chasing since the first truck crossed my bridge. Karen disappeared from community events. The new HOA president stopped by personally to apologize and assure me that no one from their side would ever use my bridge again. They even offered to pay for the inspection and minor repairs needed, which I accepted just to put the matter to rest. As for the bridge itself, still standing, still strong, reinforced by more than just bolts and beams now, reinforced by a lesson Karen wouldn't soon forget. There are moments in history where God decides to interrupt the predictable flow of life. This is one of those moments. October is not just another month on the calendar. It has been singled out by heaven for divine interference. God has declared that October will not end normally, and this is not a poetic exaggeration. This is a prophetic warning, an invitation to shift your expectation. Many are walking through this month expecting the routine, the same battles, the same results, the same cycle. But the Spirit of God is declaring a disruption. What you thought would continue will suddenly stop. What you thought was delayed will suddenly appear. There is a divine disturbance coming, not to harm, but to reorder. God is disturbing the natural to release the supernatural. He is stepping into ordinary days with extraordinary interventions. In the Bible, God often disrupted the ordinary to fulfill His plans. When the Israelites were trapped at the Red Sea, they expected death. But God interrupted Pharaoh's timeline and split the sea. When Mary was going about her ordinary life, the angel appeared with a divine announcement that would disrupt every plan she had. These weren't coincidences. They were God's deliberate disruptions to bring heaven's will into earth's reality. October carries that same prophetic disruption. Some of you have been praying, fasting, and crying out, but expecting the answer in December or next year. But God says, I am not waiting. I'm moving now. That relationship you thought was over, God will revive it suddenly. That door you assumed was closed, He will blow it open without permission. What was routine yesterday will be a miracle today. This disruption will not be comfortable. It may even look like confusion, but it is divine. It is strategic, and it is necessary. God is using disruption to shift His people into places they never would have gone on their own. You've grown used to cycles, but God is breaking the rhythm. You've grown used to wilderness thinking, but He's shifting your mentality for promised land living. For too long, some of you have adjusted to disappointment. You've managed pain, lived with delay, and called it normal. But heaven is offended by your low expectations. God did not call you to survive. He called you to manifest His glory. So He is coming to confront the ordinary that has kept you bound. He's going to shake the ground under your feet until your faith awakens again. And make no mistake, this disruption will touch every realm. In families, in finances, in ministries, in health. Whatever has been operating under a lid is about to break open. God is removing false ceilings. Systems that were built to limit you are being exposed and dismantled. You are not in October by accident. This month has been assigned to redefine your normal. When heaven declares disruption, it means change is no longer optional. It's coming whether you're ready or not. So shift your posture. Get out of survival mode. Begin to speak differently. Pray differently. Expect differently. Because when God steps into the ordinary, nothing stays the same. This is not chaos. This is kingdom order being enforced in the middle of what man thought was predictable. There is a divine announcement from the throne room. Heaven's calendar has overridden man's calendar. What was scheduled, predicted, and expected by human planning is now subject to divine interruption. God is not consulting earthly clocks to determine when to move. He is not limited by fiscal years, seasonal patterns, or natural deadlines. When heaven speaks, earthly systems must yield. We live in a world obsessed with timing. The economy functions by quarters. Governments run by cycles. Schools operate by semesters. Even believers often reduce God's power to calendar events. Waiting for New Year's Eve, for the next fast, for the next anniversary, hoping that something significant will happen by a certain date. But God does not need permission from human systems to release His will. When He decides it's time, it becomes time. There is an announcement over this October. It is time now. Not next month. Not at the end of the year. Not when conditions are favorable. Now, God has issued a heavenly override. What was marked as a season of waiting has now become a season of release. What was labeled impossible until 2026 has now been stamped, proved in October. What was buried in delay is now resurrected by divine decree. Abraham and Sarah had a biological clock that had long expired. But God was not subject to their age. Heaven's calendar said, "This time next year, you will have a son," and that word superseded decades of barrenness. Joseph sat in prison for years, forgotten by men, but one day Pharaoh had a dream, and within 24 hours, Joseph was called, cleaned, and crowned. Earth had no clue what was coming, but heaven's calendar had a date set for deliverance. Some of you have looked at the year and said, "It's too late for this to change." But God says, "I don't need time. I am outside of time. I am the creator of time. And when I speak, time bends to my voice." October is now under the influence of divine timing. What you couldn't make happen in January through September, God is about to make happen in the closing days of this month. This is why you must stop interpreting your life by human timelines. Stop letting people tell you it's not the season. Stop letting your age, your bank account, your education, or your past decide your future. When heaven overrides, the natural has no vote. October is under divine occupation. Appointments from heaven are about to collide with your life unexpectedly. You thought the year was winding down, but heaven is ramping up. What man labeled the fourth quarter or the end is what God is calling the appointed time. Some doors don't open until the last minute. Some scrolls aren't unsealed until the final chapter. Don't be surprised when things you were told would take years happen in a matter of days. Don't be shocked when the final stretch of October becomes the most fruitful time of your entire year. The divine override means acceleration. It means divine interruptions. It means heaven is no longer watching, it is acting. The angels are not waiting. They are being dispatched. Prophetic words are not lingering. They are being activated. Heaven's calendar has reached its moment, and nothing on earth can delay what God has ordained. There is a sound coming from the spirit realm, a sound not of death, but of birth, a sound of travail, of pushing, of transition. It is not the cry of defeat. It is the cry of something new entering the earth. October has been marked as a birthing room in the realm of the Spirit. What has been carried in the womb of prayer, prophecy, and pain is now positioned for delivery. For months, even years, many have been in seasons of spiritual pregnancy, carrying promises, visions, assignments, and prophetic words that had no visible manifestation. Some have felt stretched. Others have felt the weight of something they could not explain. But God says, what you've been carrying in secret, I am about to reveal in public. This is a month of spiritual labor, and labor is never comfortable. It is messy, it is intense, it requires focus and endurance, but it is the final stage before manifestation. We are in a kairos moment, an appointed time. The womb of the Spirit is contracting. The pressure you've been feeling is not punishment. It's preparation. You are not being crushed. You are being pushed. Pain in this season is not a sign of failure, but an indicator that delivery is near. When a woman is pregnant, the closer she gets to delivery, the more uncomfortable she becomes. Things that were once easy become heavy. Movement becomes restricted. Sleep becomes disrupted. Why? Because her body is shifting into birthing mode. And the same is true in the spirit. Some of you have been asking, why is everything around me changing so suddenly? God is shifting your environment to accommodate your delivery. He's disconnecting you from what cannot go with you into your next season. Old cycles are breaking. Familiar patterns are being interrupted. You can't carry full-term promises with first trimester faith. God is requiring you to grow up quickly, pray deeper, and walk in greater sensitivity to the Spirit. In Revelation 12, the woman clothed with the sun cried out in pain as she was about to give birth, and the moment she pushed, the enemy tried to devour what she carried. This is why the warfare has intensified. The enemy is not attacking you because of where you've been. He's afraid of what you're about to birth. But he cannot stop what heaven has ordained. The dragon stood ready to devour, but God snatched the child away and secured it in safety. What God births through you in this season will be protected, preserved, and positioned by His own hand. There are ministries being birthed. There are books, songs, strategies, and callings that are coming forth. Some of you are birthing boldness. Others are birthing healing mantles, prophetic voices, and apostolic assignments. You thought you were just surviving, but you've been incubating destiny, and now the time has come to push. This is not the month to be silent. It's the month to cry out. Travail must precede transition. Groaning must come before glory. Heaven responds to sound. When Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. So open your mouth. Let the Spirit make intercession through you. Let your tears become prayers. Let your prayers become contractions. Because what could not be birthed in past seasons is now crowning. There is a divine wind blowing, an anointing not just for breakthrough, but for acceleration. The Spirit of God is not moving at the pace of human planning. He is moving in suddenlies, and October has become a runway for heaven's rapid releases. What you thought would take years, God is about to do in days. What was crawling is now about to run. What was stagnant is now being infused with divine momentum. Acceleration in the Spirit is not like human speed. It is not about rushing. It is about catching up to divine timing. There are seasons when heaven releases a grace to redeem time, to collapse delay, and to bring you into alignment faster than human logic can explain. In one moment, Joseph was a prisoner. In the next, he was a ruler. It didn't take years of campaigning. It didn't take negotiation. It took one divine moment, one suddenly, and everything shifted. This is what is happening in October. God is redeeming time for those who stayed faithful in delay. He is rewarding those stayed in the hidden place, those who were overlooked, those who thought they had missed their moment. The Lord says, "You did not miss it. I was preparing it." And now, suddenly, the season has shifted. Suddenly, the doors are opening. Suddenly, the phone call comes. Suddenly, the resources show up. Suddenly, the anointing multiplies. The book of Acts is full of suddenly moments. Suddenly, there came a sound from heaven, and the entire room was filled with the Holy Spirit. One moment they were waiting. The next moment they were empowered. One moment they were sitting, the next they were speaking in unknown tongues. That's the pattern of divine acceleration. There's often silence, delay, or confusion. And then suddenly, heaven invades. You've been in the stretch. You've been in the slow grind. But the Spirit of the Lord is saying, now comes the surge. Acceleration means the Spirit of God is removing obstacles that were slowing you down. He's cutting timelines in half. He's aligning the right people, places, and opportunities in ways that don't make sense on paper. You don't need another 10 years to walk into destiny. One divine moment can change everything. There is a supernatural pace being released. You're about to do more in 3 weeks than you did in 3 years. You're about to gain more ground in October than in the last 4 quarters combined. It's not because of your strength, your strategy, or your striving. It's because heaven has declared a divine green light. But acceleration requires readiness. When the cloud moves, you must move. When the door opens, you must step through it immediately. This is not the season to hesitate or delay. God is not only opening opportunities, He is shortening the distance between promise and fulfillment. The suddenlies of God are not random. They are strategic. They show up after seasons of obedience. They come to those who did not faint. They come to those who praised in silence, who gave without applause, who prayed when it felt dry. You thought heaven was ignoring you, but heaven was storing up every seed, every prayer, every sacrifice, and now the vaults are opening. Sudden healing, sudden promotion, sudden release, sudden clarity. There is a trembling in the spirit. A line is being drawn. October has become a divine crossroads where judgment and mercy are meeting face to face. This is not a contradiction. It is the justice of God in action. For too long, injustice has been tolerated, wickedness has gone unchecked, and hidden things have festered under religious and political coverings. But now the Lord is stepping in. He is not only coming as the good shepherd, He is coming as the righteous judge. When judgment and mercy intersect, it means God is dealing with both the root and the fruit. He is not just addressing symptoms, He is going to the source. He is not just healing the wounded, He is exposing what caused the wound. This month carries the weight of divine confrontation. The systems, the structures, and the spirits that have mocked God's patience are now being brought before the courts of heaven. And yet, even in the midst of divine judgment, mercy is still crying out. Mercy does not cancel judgment, it meets it. At the cross, judgment and mercy collided. The wrath of God was satisfied, and the love of God was magnified. That same collision is happening now in the spirit realm. There are people and places under judgment, but also under invitation. God is giving space to repent, to shift, to return. The hammer is coming, but so is the hand. What you receive will depend on your posture. October is not just a month of blessing, it is a month of reckoning. In households, in ministries, in governments, and in hearts, God is weighing motives. He is testing foundations. That which has been built on ego will not survive. That which has been established in humility and truth will be refined, not removed. The shaking is not to destroy, it is to distinguish. He is separating wheat from tares, truth from deception, purity from performance. For the faithful remnant, this intersection is not something to fear. It is something to rejoice in. Because when God judges righteously, He also clears the way for vindication, restoration, and alignment. Some of you have been falsely accused, overlooked, or attacked unjustly. You've held your peace while others manipulated the narrative. But the righteous judge has seen it all, and He is stepping in, not just to judge the guilty, but to restore the innocent. There are leaders who will be removed in this season, not because of gossip, but because God has had enough. There are doors that will close, not as punishment, but as protection. There are alignments that will end because mercy is delivering you from long-term damage. God is not just pouring out blessings, He is executing decisions. The gavel is falling in the spirit. Verdicts are being released. Some will rejoice, some will weep, but all will know that God is not to be mocked. And yet, even in the midst of this sobering atmosphere, His mercy is still active. There are altars being reopened. There are prodigals being called home. There are Saul-like hearts being confronted on the road to Damascus. The same light that blinds can also heal. The same fire that consumes can also purify. God is not choosing one or the other. He is releasing both judgment and mercy in perfect measure. There is a sound rising in the heavens, a sound like the abundance of rain. Not just any rain, but the latter rain. This is not symbolic moisture. This is prophetic precipitation. It is the kind of rain that restores what was lost in former seasons. It is the kind of rain that awakens barren fields and softens hardened hearts. October is not just a season of transition. It is the beginning of divine outpouring. The heavens are opening, and the Lord is saying, "Prepare for rain." The latter rain was always prophesied as the rain of harvest and fulfillment. In the natural, it comes after the early rain that prepares the soil. But the latter rain comes to bring the seed to maturity. It is the final push before the fields are full. And in the Spirit, that is what God is doing now. What you planted in past seasons with tears, what you watered with prayer and fasting, what you protected with your obedience, it is now about to come to maturity under the power of this rain. This is not just a personal rain, it is a corporate outpouring. It is coming to houses of worship that have been dry. It is coming to cities that have been spiritually barren. It is coming to nations where the gospel seemed dormant. Where there has been apathy, fire is coming. Where there has been drought, abundance is being released. But only those who are prepared will be able to contain what is coming. God does not waste rain on unprepared ground. Preparation is not about striving, it's about positioning. In 2 Kings 3, the prophet told the people to dig ditches in a dry valley. There was no cloud, no forecast, no natural sign. But God said, "You will not see wind or rain, yet the valley will be filled with water." They had to dig in faith. They had to prepare without proof. And when the water came, it filled every empty place. This is a month to dig your ditches again. Dig in prayer. Dig in fasting. Dig in radical obedience. The rain is coming to fill what you have prepared. The latter rain will also distinguish. Some built platforms, others built altars. Some sought attention, others sought His face. The rain will not fall on performance, but on hunger. It will fall on sacrifice. It will fall on purity. God is not looking for talent. He is looking for vessels. And when the rain falls, it will be clear who was postured in secret. There is healing in this rain. There is deliverance in this rain. There is provision in this rain. There are mantles and mandates being released under this rain. The Lord is reviving prophetic dreams that were forgotten. He is reigniting callings that were silenced. He is restoring joy where there was only survival. This is not drizzle. This is saturation. In Joel 2, God promised, I will send you the former rain moderately, and the latter rain in the first month. This is that season. The rain is not coming to delay. It's coming to accelerate. The fields are ripe. The ground is ready. And the clouds are heavy. But only the expectant will receive. Only the vessels turned upward will be filled.